Okay, good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Wouldn't be as exciting if I just had to talk to my wife in the back. I guess the theme of today's day, just a couple days before Lag BaOmer, it's during Sefira, and our rabbis teach us, the Gemara says that these days that we mark Sefira Omer is because of the fact that there was a catastrophe in Judaism that 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died, which is very, if you think about those numbers, it's staggering. That means you take the entire yeshiva of Lakewood, you take the Mir in Eretz Yisrael, you take this yeshiva and all the other Chafetz Chaim yeshivas together, that doesn't equal 24,000 students. The Gemara says, actually, that after these students passed away, the world was desolate, which is like reminiscent to what it says in Parshas Bereshis, like sohu vavohu, nothing there. And this had such a major impact on the world that all these students, all these great scholars passed away. And the Gemara says it wasn't just for, there was a reason behind it. And the Gemara reveals to us it was because lo nagu kavod zelazeh. There was some bein alma chaveros, some midos, some issue in menschlichkeit, as we would say, in being a nice person, that unfortunately they lack. They were great people, but even great people in these areas sometimes can step on someone's toe and not realize it. And because of that, we're in mourning. And really, I guess what these days are for, is not just to observe, okay, so you can't have a wedding. As a man, it's quite annoying, you can't shave. But it's much more than that. It's to really reflect back on what, was wrong and what we could do in our generation to rectify it. So I decided to talk about the topic. In general, I'm sure there'll be a lot of speeches today about bein amol chavera, between one person and someone else, how we become just better people. But I decided, and I had the ability to listen to the end of the question and answer session before, so I see it's something on everyone's mind. It's always good to gauge your audience. But I entitled my talk today, Sensitivities in Social Media. Now, what I heard before having the discussion, is a smart idea having your teenager have a smartphone. And the Rosh Hashivas, the Menalim already spoke about it. And, I can tell you from the front lines, being a Rebbe with teenagers, it's definitely dangerous. And whatever could be done, to avoid it or at least limit it is the best thing in the world. But I'm talking in the practical sense to everybody here. It's one thing having your child not have a smartphone, but it's a complicated world. And for most people, it's quite hard, if not impossible, not to be involved, with, everyone's involved in it. You don't have to have a smartphone to have Instagram or Facebook or other things. And, you have to look at the reality. People have it. And what I would like to talk about today is not so much the element of having it or not, but at least how we deal with people in social media. What is the correct way to go about it? And if you think about it, social media has taken over the world. People, there are constantly studies coming out. There's not enough data really to study these things because it's constantly evolving. But people spend, if they had an actual timer, how much time your fingers are on that phone a day, we would not want to see the answer. People, lives literally have changed. This is a part of my life. I tell these high school kids sometimes, I said, I think you would rather, be careful how I say it, but you'd rather lose your nose than lose your smartphone. Okay? Sense of smell. but this has so many more senses. People, you're addicted to it. And it changes our social patterns. What used to be conversations, what used to be phone calls, meetings, everything is done on the phone. Everything is carried out that way. Husband and wife, friends, family members. You all have chats. You all have instant messaging. You share your life, pictures, what's going on. You know, if you go dark for a couple of days, people ask, everything okay? I haven't seen a WhatsApp from you or an Instagram post in a few hours. So that's what I'd like to address. Our involvement in social media and what it really is the best way to interact with it. I came across a medrash, which I think is very insightful. We all know from the Chumash, Noach was the person who was a good person, tasked with the idea to try to change his generation. They were going in the bad path. For 120 years, he was sitting there building his teva. You know, I know big real estate projects sometimes take a while, but that one took 120 years. Okay. Each time he was constantly telling his people, hey, you know, flood is coming, you better repent. Okay. Fortunately, they didn't listen. And we know what happened. Hashem brought a Mabul that literally destroyed the world. He actually analyzed, it's so fascinating, a lot of the real scientific questions sometimes people have about, you know, different beings. A lot of the Mefarshim explain there's a major difference between before the Mabul and after the Mabul. There could have been prehistoric, you know, dinosaurs, who knows what, animals and things. The Mabul literally changed the landscape of the entire world. Major, major event. And after the Mabul, so Noah came out, and together with his family, they rebuilt the world. The Medrash says about Noah was a person who saw three worlds. He saw the world before the Mabul. He lived through the time of the Mabul, which that itself, Chazal explained, like time was suspended. You couldn't really tell the difference night and day. It was crazy, crazy period of time which did not exist anywhere else in human existence. And then the new world after the Mabul. And Chazal depict Noah as being a smart person who realized that he was living in three different worlds. He lived all these different periods. He realized, look, this is one world. In the Mabul, his entire life was focused on sustaining the animals because that's going to be the future of the world. And then afterwards, okay, I have to build a new world. So Noah was able to grasp that he's living in different worlds, different environments, and react differently to them. I think everybody here should have the same experience that I had. I lived in the world before smartphones. I think we all did.
Yes. Before cell phones.
Right?
Before cell phones.
I don't want to date anyone here, but yes, we've lived in the world before social media, before all this technology. It's probably hard for us to look back and remember what it felt like. We are now living in a different world. There's social media everywhere. People interact. That's what friendships are, right? You like it, this. I think that gives us a tremendous, tremendous insight if we could capitalize on it. If we could think back on our lives before we got involved in all this technology, how was life? Were we less happy? Mm-hmm. Did we not have relationships? We definitely didn't have as many followers. Mm-hmm. It was a different world. If we take some moments to think about life before we had social media, and now that we have it, the secular mentality is, the world is always getting better, right? But the world is, My generation is better than my parents, definitely better than my grandparents' generation. The Torah view normally is niskatnu hadoros. As the generations go on, we're weaker and weaker, and we look up to our previous generations. We look up to our previous times. And I think if we really analyze our lives before and after, okay, it might have been less convenient back then in many ways. Okay? What advantages are we doing with the time? Now, everybody here is doing very good advantages with the time. But I'm not sure we have this time just because we have cell phones and social media. That's why we're able to be here today. If we really think back, the contrast of life before the world, before social media and the world now, I think that would give us as parents, as people, a different perspective of what social media is today. And I think, and that's why I think we're all here today, realize the importance of this moment, the importance of our lives. Our kids are growing up in a world they don't know anything else. They only know a world of social media, of smartphones, of all this technology. We automatically have one up on our children. We're smarter than them. We went through life. We saw the world before social media. We know what it means to have relationships with our friends. We went through school having close friends without them being part of a chat. When your kid comes to you, I have to have, a smartphone. All my friends have it. And they feel the pressure because that's how everyone's interacting. They don't want to be left out. And as a parent, of course, you feel for your kid. But at the same time, you have a different perspective. You know what life was without this. Was it worse? Were you disadvantaged? I think that's a very, very important perspective everyone in this room has. And it's a perspective we have to give over to our kids because they don't have it. And it's impossible for them to get it unless we give it to them. That's what it means. Noach lived through 3 worlds. He knew the world before the Mabul. He knew the world after the Mabul. We have that same obligation. We have to know the world before the Mabul. I think that's a good comparison. Wow. At the same time, we have to be careful. Everything always has to be balanced. And unfortunately, sometimes in the film world, you could see people that are very stark and very, canoistic, and you have to know where they're coming from. You can't forget the world that we're in now. It's a balance. I remember once heard somebody say in a speech, I thought it was a very good point. Imagine if, it may not be so hard for some people in the audience, right? Imagine if you are the first generation to grow up in this country. Your parents grew up in a different country. Your parents are quote unquote immigrants, but you are an American. There's a certain disconnect that a child will have with a parent because the child, okay, you're European, you grew up in Europe, you didn't grow up in America. Latin America's not the same. And there's a certain disconnect that a child might feel towards a parent. And then really that applies to technology too. We have to make ourselves aware of what our children are doing on social media and understand it. If we're in our own world, to be honest, for this share, I know some things, but I don't know a lot. I had to interview a few people to get some better understandings. I've never been on Instagram, don't know anything. I've been on Facebook. But I could get it, I could understand it. It's important that our kids know that we understand them. We have to know their world too. We could show them the world that we know before all this. At the same time, we have to be holding, we have to understand where they're coming from. If our kids feel validated, if our kids feel that we know them, we understand them, then all the more so they'll take our advice, that we remember what it was before and without it. So I think that balance is very important. To see the worlds, to understand the worlds, And just because everyone else is doing it, look, I remember I had friendships, I had very close friendships without it. We don't necessarily need it. But today's topic, I don't want to specifically talk, it's always good to talk about our kids. It's not about us, but I think we should talk about us too. And the behaviors that we have through social media, our interactions, how that affects us, how it affects other people. I gave out this booklet because I mentioned I spoke last time. When I give shiurim, I always give out Mar Makomos. I always give out handouts of sources. So I could have given you lots of Aramaic. So I decided, I had found some good pieces. First piece in the booklet, is a medrash in Parshas Vayera. It talks about Lot and his children. I'm glad that we have a bigger crowd than I printed up booklets. Thank you. We can make more. Send a request. But Lot was somebody we know was close to Avram Avinu, and really in Avram Avinu's chus, in his merit, Lot was saved. Lot lived in the evil city of Sodom. And Hashem came to destroy the city of Sodom because they were quite unfortunate, bad people. And Hashem sent malachim, angels, who clearly, once they blew their cover, they clearly were able to show the people that they're angels and they're here to save Lot and his family. The Medrash says a very interesting thing. Pasuk alludes to it. Lot, his daughters all flee to safety and left Sodom. His son-in-laws never left. They stayed and they perished. Why didn't they leave? So the Medrash tells an amazing thing. The Malachim came to them the night before they're going to destroy the city of Sodom, and they gave the message: we're angels of Hashem, we can prove it, and we're going to go and destroy the city. The son-in-laws looked at the city. The city, the Medrash depicts, was bustling with excitement. The nightlife in Sodom, especially your people that are super selfish, don't care about others, I'm sure they were partying like you only live once. And the party was going on, the lights were shining, and these two son-in-laws of Lot looked at it and says, this place isn't going to be destroyed tomorrow. It can't be. That picture in their mind was entrenched, was drilled in, like, that's not happening. Mistake. Because they couldn't get that picture out of their mind, they perished. I believe you see a couple important lessons from this story. A picture is a very, very powerful thing. When you see a picture, you're fixated by it. If that's what the picture is, that must be true. Right? We know. It's not even a chazal. A picture's worth 1,000 words. You can talk and you can talk and you can talk, but you see a picture, you see an advertisement for something. It looks amazing. It's very hard to sway a person away from it. These son-in-laws of Lot saw the city, they denied reality, and they stayed. I think this is probably one of the most important ideas when you talk about social media and you talk about what they call virtual reality, because it really isn't. Someone posts a picture. This is me on my vacation. Wow, they must be having so much fun. Look at that beach. Wow, I never saw water that shade. Beautiful. They must be having the time of their life. What's social media about? What's Instagram about? Facebook. You share your life through pictures. So when one person sees someone else's pictures, that's the reality of their life. It's amazing. Look at that family. They're so happy. So beautiful. Unfortunately, what that does many times to people, it builds within them jealousy. It builds within them feelings like, why does she get everything good? That's unhealthy for a person. I've seen on chats, when someone posts a picture, a beautiful picture, this is me over here, the response, I'm so jealous. Right? That's the key word. I'm so jealous. Like, it hit me. That's like, they're saying it like, it's like LOL. It's like, yeah, that's what you say. That's your response when someone posts something very nice. I'm so jealous. But there's obviously truth to that. I'm so jealous. Social media has created a world where people feed off each other's lives and they see pictures and it's just, they're in awe. It's so amazing. People could post about their family, their lifestyle, their vacations, their cars, their this, their that. People could post about themselves, how their own appearance, how they look. And people see that and it just builds negative feelings. But that's the society. Everyone's posting. That's a common thing, right? You set your table, you post a picture. You go out for a night with your husband, post a picture. Everyone, because after all, people are following you. It's crazy. You're first, I want to focus on ourselves, and then we'll talk about our effects on other people. But when a person sees that, it's very hard not to be jealous. It's very hard to really be happy for the other person. Oh, I'm so happy you got a night out with your husband again this week. Last time that happened was 4 months ago. I'm so happy you have a great babysitter. It's something, it's hard not to be affected by it. But the simple Eitzah, the Bacher in case marriage came to me, Rebbe, I'm so jealous of this guy. You know what I'll tell him? Being somebody that's quite knowledgeable what really goes on, is unfortunately the pictures lie.
Nobody posts the negative side.
Right. Everyone posts the picture. If it doesn't look good, it's not going up on Instagram.
Filter.
Right? Let's take a picture from the other direction. People post pictures, but they're not real. The same way that Lot's son-in-law see this picture, wow, the city's bustling. It's always going to be like this. It's about to be destroyed. Tomorrow it's going to be in ashes. You see the same thing? So that's something, it's so sad. Just in preparing for the share, I spoke to somebody who told me, yeah, they, I remember seeing pictures of this family, and it looks so amazing. And I thought, well, it's fun. They didn't realize that the family was going through a very tough, internally the husband and wife didn't have shalom bias, and they're going through challenges. And from the pictures, everything looked amazing. Everything looked perfect. But in reality, it wasn't. And the more just for ourselves, we'll get to later. I'll try to touch on how do we, what is the right reaction when we see other people posting. Can we reach a madrega of actually feeling happy for them? Sure. But the first step is to realize a lot of this is fake. A lot of it isn't real. And that's real. That's beautiful. But this, I wish in yeshiva, you see beautiful things happen all the time. Right? It's not just like on Shabbos, I wish I could pull my phone and tape it. Because the real things that happen in life are so many times they're inner struggles, they're quiet things that somebody does, people don't know about. The things really people are boasting about usually can't be as good as claim. That's one idea. So for ourselves, for our own sanity, when we, if we spend any time on social media, we have to be smart enough, and I'm sure we are, but just, it's what we call, it's like Musar, you have to reinforce it in your own mind. Is when you see things, don't get jealous of the person. Realize you're seeing a snippet of their life, which is good. You don't know the snippet of their life, which is bad, which is not pleasant. And I remember hearing from my Rebbe, kind of Leibowitz, a person going through struggles, it's very hard. But you ever ask a person, would you switch your struggles for somebody else's? Hashem gave everyone their own struggles, which is perfectly made for themselves. And I'll take that, I don't want their struggles. But you're not taking their struggles, don't take their pictures either. So that's one idea. Now, corollary of that is all the more so, we have to be careful that we ourselves are not causing others to be jealous of us. The Gemara says, more than a person has to be careful not to get damaged, you have to be careful not to damage somebody else. I'm not going into the topic now. I gave a share Sunday morning, my halacha share about vaccinations, and that argument, I was quite strong on. Whatever shittas you think you have about why not have your child vaccinated, how can you hurt somebody else? There's a greater responsibility on a person not to protect others and protect his own family. You can't cause harm. That's true about everything we do. We have to realize the ramifications that if we post things that could be too envious, cause jealousy in somebody else's eyes, that's on us. That's our responsibility. And we have to go to the nth degree to prevent that. I'll show you. I just came across recently, there's Gemara in Yuma. Talks about the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. Rabbi Luban touched on this in the speech he gave publicly, but he didn't say this point. So you have the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. We know this is the one time of all year he goes into the Kodesh Kodashim, the most holy place in the world, and he does the Avodah in the Kodesh Kodashim, and he goes and davens in the Kodesh Kodashim. You probably don't know this. An amazing thing the Gemara says. The Gemara says, in the Kodesh Kodashim, he said a very short tefillah. Why? Why do you say a short tefillah? You would think the one time all year you're inside the Kodesh Kodashim, this is the place, this is the time, you're davening on behalf of Klal Yisrael. Why are you davening a short tefillah? The Gemara says it's because of the fact that not every Kohen Gadol made it out alive. If he wasn't really fit for the position, so then he didn't emerge alive. And if he would be inside the Kodesh Kodashim too long, people start getting nervous. Hey, maybe he's not making it out. So to push off their fears, he would daven quickly and come right back. That's what the Gemara says. But it still troubled me. You're weighing the two things. I have the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur. I'm davening on behalf. I assume everyone in Klal Yisrael want me to daven longer. Why is he so jumping out of the Kodesh Kodashim, davening a short tefillah? The answer is above and beyond even great ruchnias, great spiritual ideas you have. You always have to be careful about someone else's feelings. If I post this will inspire many people to do the right thing, to do this mitzvah. Okay? But it also might cause some other people to be hurt in some way. Should I do it or not? You see from the Kohen Gadol, if there's any chance that someone could be hurt by something, I can't do it. No matter how lofty my intentions are. I've davened longer in the Kodesh Kodashim. Yeah, but people could be nervous about you coming out. The nervousness will go away when I come out. But what about for those few moments when they are nervous? You have to be sensitive to people's feelings. I didn't tell them to be nervous. Okay? But you know there are people that are nervous in these situations. I didn't tell them to be jealous. Okay, but you know this is a reaction that people have. So you have to think twice. I'm not saying it means you can never post a picture of, right? You start off before everything has to be balanced. Of course, you know. I'm not saying we should go back into a cave and delete everything. I don't know. That sounds a lot. Usually people don't live life making radical changes. Usually not good for other reasons. But we have something questionable. It should be something on our mindset that when I post something, is this something that's going to potentially hurt someone else's feelings? I came across an amazing story just this past Shabbos. There's a woman who was niftaris last week. I believe she was way in her 90s. It's Rebbetzin Brudny. Her husband was a Maggid chair in the Mir Yeshiva in New York. One of her sons is famous Rebbe Elia Brudny, who goes all around the world speaking. Tremendous. He's a Rosh Yeshiva in that same yeshiva that his father was in. His other son was a Mashkiach in the Lakewood Yeshiva. Wonderful person, Rebbe Elia Brudny family. So this Rebbetzin Brudny, when she got married years ago to her husband was one of these amazing people that survived the Holocaust through the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai. So he traveled through Shanghai, learned in the yeshiva, was one of the best bachrim in the yeshiva, and he married this nice American girl. Unfortunately, this Rabbi Shmuel Brudny in the Holocaust lost his entire family. He was the only one who survived. Unfortunately, many people have that story. He was walked down to the chuppah by the Rosh Yeshivas of the Mir. I think maybe Shmuel Birnbaum. That's was one of the people who walked him down. Amazing person. At their wedding, there were no pictures. No pictures? Why no pictures? Rebbetzin Brudny felt the following thing. I'm going to have pictures of me, my family, everyone there. What's my husband have? I can't have pictures. An American girl? This is your wedding date. It's Kodesh Kadashim. But it might hurt a person's feelings. It might hurt my husband's feelings. Can't do it. Obviously, that's a great person. But that's an ideal. To measure everything. Taka, I'm posting a picture. But somebody else, who's on that chat? That's a cheshbon to make. You have a nice WhatsApp group. So you want to send a picture of you and your husband to somebody else, your sister, your friend, also happily married. Okay, maybe you could send a picture. But you're going to send it to somebody who's not yet married? It's much harsh. You're going to send pictures of your children to someone who does not yet have children? Who's on the chat? It's very easy. Go to WhatsApp chat, group info, type there. WhatsApp, I understand. Right? You see who's on the chat. If there's someone in the chat that could get hurt by it, you can't send it. You shouldn't send it. Have a sensitivity for someone else's feelings. That's what Rebbetzin Brudny had. There's a medrash, that's actually a Ramban. It's the last page in the book. There, the Ramban sounds like a very technical point. it's commenting on all the parshios. Right? It's a parsha that talks about illicit relationships. So we know the Torah prohibits, you can't have a person marry a mother and daughter, you can't marry other relatives, and also included you can't marry two sisters, okay, within a lifetime, while they're both alive. So the Ramban is commenting, the Torah uses a strange language when it talks about why a person can't marry two sisters. It uses this word litzror. Literally means to cause strife. In yeshiva, that word is like one of the most important words for the whole entire Masechta of Yevamos. But the Ramban comments, why do you use this word to cause strife? Very insightful lesson about human dynamics. He says there's something worse for a person to marry two sisters than for a person to marry even a mother and daughter. Let's say someone would violate this commandment and he would live with, a mother and a daughter. Horrible, obviously, immoral act. But it's worse to marry two sisters. Why? Because you're making them tsaras. You're causing strife. Naturally, two sisters should be close, should be friends. They should share life together. If they have to share a husband together, share a man together, that's innately going to bring out jealousy and contention and competition. And that's a worse crime. That you cause two people that should have been friends, that should have been close sisters, you broke them apart. That's a worse crime. Now you think about that. People could always get into fights before there was social media. But there's no doubt that it helps facilitate it too. Especially, it's one thing that people have private conversations. So you're having a conversation with your friend, a conversation with a sibling. So if you do it with one-on-one, okay, so you get into a squabble, you disagree about something, okay, so you both say your sides. Sometimes there can be hurt feelings depending how sensitive you are within that interaction. But let's say this plays out on a family chat or in a friend's chat. You state your opinion, then she states her opinion. Then, since you brought it on the chat, or there are other people who could chime in, and they side with you, and you add it up, boy, you have quite a few likes. These scenarios happen daily. But it's unfortunately more easy with social media to turn one person against another. And someone who could have been a friend, could have been a close sister, this happens, okay, hopefully one time does, people make mistakes, and usually from one-time mistakes, most of the time, you don't have catastrophes from one-time mistakes. Definitely if these things are done time after time again, every day there's a family chat, every day there's a friends chat, and these type of behaviors happen, it's easy to turn someone who was close to somebody else now against them. And that's something you have to be worried about. That's something, litzror, not to cause strife between two people who are close. That's a big deal. And we have to be ever careful about that. So we not just should be careful about making other people jealous, we also be careful not to cause distances in friendship, distances in sibling connections that can happen from different group chats. A third idea. I guess it's the fourth. With so many things, the more we get involved in them, and the more time we spend in them, we get desensitized to it. After a while, these things become just commonplace. And reactions that people have in social media are just accepted. You could talk harsh, you could not respond, you could do different things. And if you'd ask a person, will you do this? No, I never will. But slowly, as we just get used to habitual, doing them again and again, it becomes second nature. And sometimes we even forget what's so bad about it. So, that's true really about any avera, any lack of sensitivity to another person. The Chazal say, "Kivun sha'avar al avera v'shana ba nas lo keheter." Once you do an avera and you repeat it, it becomes normal. It becomes accepted. So that's true. An avera person does what you call bein adam u'makom, between you and Hashem. But it's also true things you do with somebody else. Even just how much social media is a part of our lives. How many times do we have conversations with live people, and at the same time, we're sitting there on our phone? There probably was a point in everyone's life they realized that's not respectful to the person in front of us. But we do it. Okay? Or you're having a conversation, sorry, I have to go, I just got a call. But you're talking to me. Right? Someone, I was talking, asking different people, tell me gripes, tell me things you see that people do in social media. He says, yeah, he says, it happened to me multiple times. I'm on conversation with somebody, and the person just abruptly hangs up on me, never to call me back or even apologize, something else came up. We're pulled in so many different ways. We don't realize, obviously as a parent, we have to give our children the focus. I've heard already people have the insight, when you pick up your kid from school, don't be on your phone, right? If you're going through the effort to sit through the carpool line until you pick up your kid, grandkid, okay, so give them the attention. Now's not the time to be on your phone. Emergencies come up, okay, understood sometimes, but it can't be all the time. And just our interaction with other people. It's something that if we keep on doing it, we get desensitized. We keep on posting things which could be hurtful, which could be insensitive to other people. That's what we do. It takes a conscious effort to think about it, to change it, and eventually stop it. Now I think, Yeshiva, we talk about, really, in Yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, it's a wonderful thing. Besides all the Gemara and Halacha, Torah we learn, our Masorah is very special. It includes a lot of focus on Midos. And really, we tell the boys, this is the goal of your life. Your goal of life is not just to become a Talmid Chacham. It's to become a Talmid Chacham and a Baal Midos. And you can't have one without the other. And it's a very, very important goal. And it's a beautiful thing. The boys, the Bachrim, respond to it. I'll tell you a story. It's an amazing story. Motzei Shabbos, I'm in my house preparing for my next share. I get a phone call from one of my Talmidim. Rebbe, we're in this store. Is hashgacha okay? I looked into it. I said, yeah, it's okay. You can eat there. Then a few minutes later, I get a different call. Rebbe, if a Gentile woman wants to buy something for us, can we accept it? I'm worried about a shiloh, different things. I said, yes, you could. What happened? Group of 10.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
The second question was, if a Gentile woman was offered to buy something, are you able to accept that as a present? There are certain things different between Jews. Just asking. I said, yeah, you are allowed to. What happened? They were in a store, and they started looking at the hashgacha. Is it acceptable? So this lady walked into the store, and she says, "Don't worry, I won't tell the rabbis." So one of the boys was politely responded back, "We're not really worried about the rabbis. We're worried about God."
Wow.
This lady was so taken aback, she went and sponsored ice cream for 10 yeshiva buffer.
No.
Quite a bill. she was just blown away. These are thoughtful kids, teenagers. First, she was impressed the way they behaved, the way they interacted. But, like, wow, look, they're nervous in a healthy way. God is in the equation. She was just blown away. She treated them all to ice cream. The guys all came back with the story. Rebbe, you never believe what happened. You give a guy a couple of scoops of ice cream, even the 18-year-old Bacher, right? Did you hear the story?
And they had eaten meat, and now they can't eat the ice cream.
They made sure they were melchats. But your son was one of those boys. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Baruch Hashem. But we always say, when it comes to midos, you have to know where to start. I think with social media, the first thing is we have to be careful that we shouldn't cause envy, we shouldn't ourselves be envious of other people. And then beyond that, we can start working on higher things to really be, part of someone else's simcha, to really feel someone else's pain. That's a bigger thing to do, Everyone in social media assumes when you post something, everyone's just going to enjoy this. Everyone's going to feel my pain. Everyone's going to feel my sorrow. I've seen it many times. Someone posts, I get a mazel tov about this. Next thing you know, do you know where I could get this? Right? Also, they realize a certain sensitivity. You're stealing their thunder, right? Maybe they shouldn't have posted this, but what they're posting, they want to share what they're excited about. You just blow it off. Where can I go? Which restaurant is still open tonight? Right? It's the opposite. If somebody's very sick, we say to him for which ice cream store is open again past 11 on Motzi Shabbos? You can't post that within Tochtei Dibur, within a few minutes of a post of somebody saying that please daven for her. Have these sensitivities. Unfortunately, we're in a world where if people don't stop to think about it, people don't learn about it, it's not going to be there. We have to realize that we're the generation that lived through a life without social media. We have the obligation to share that with this generation. They need it. They need our guidance. They need our positive. So much of social media is negative. Right? For that alone, it's good to keep them away. Forget about they never saw a bad thing in the world. Just all the negativity on the most kosher of sites. I tell my kids, I don't want them reading the comments on Yeshiva World. I don't know how anyone could read that. Just negativity after negativity after negativity. You see where definitely part of the world is at. And you see kids that are, so negative. It's not healthy. We have to give over to our kids, to our family, to whoever we come in contact with. We saw the world before, just like Noah. We saw the world before social media. We see the world now, and Be'ez Hashem, if we all do our little jobs, we'll all see the world post all of this. The days of Mashiach should come speedily. We need it in our days. Thank you very much for listening. Sure.
So how do you deal with, for example, when a lot of the friends are starting to get cell phones and then I don't know if that was touched upon.
No, I don't know what they said before. Mrs. Man is asking what to do, when all your kids' friends are all getting smartphones, all this. How do you do this? So I wasn't here for the whole thing before, but the Rosh Hashivas did address it. But I'll tell you one thing. I think it's very important. I don't know if they said it. Really, that issue, don't wait till your kids ask that question. Why? Because what really you have to do to enable your child to pass that test, and to whatever degree, whether to get one or not get one, but to be responsible about it, it has to be a feeling which is built up in the kid beforehand. You have to build up, feelings in the kid, the strength of self, that you don't necessarily just follow everybody else. You want to do the right thing. You have to build a relationship with the child, that the child trusts you and knows that my parents is out there for my best interest. You know, it's very hard. A Talmud of mine came to me. A Talmud of mine came to me the other day. It was a tricky thing. A very interesting shiloh. His family, Baruch Hashem, is, as you call, is becoming, closer to Torah. And they want to switch his sister between the school that she's in now to a stronger Torah school. And his sister's struggling with it. And unfortunately, you have this a lot. Life, people are not stationary. Parents could be growing, but doesn't necessarily mean kids are growing at the same speed, the same rate as a parent. And we have to be in touch with our kids. That discussion about a smartphone is a benchmark, is a point where, okay, it'll come out, but it's a daily thing, step by step, day by day, to help our children. When we grow, we have to, again, they're different people, and I'm not saying we schlep them along, but we have to be cognizant of where they are. And, reach out. A lot of times yeshiva can help too. And, I've done, different things from parents over the years. Kids adjusting. A parent, an adult, is much easier able to adjust to changes in life than a young child. And,
I think it's the other way.
I'll tell you why.
Yes, I think it's right.
It might be this, the old adage, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But you have greater emotional stability, emotional strength to get through it. A kid doesn't have it. A kid might be more flexible. We're less flexible. We're creatures of habit. But our kids don't have the strength. We have to empower them with that.
Well, the difference is whether a change is happening to you or whether you make the change. It's harder for an adult to make the changes, but if a change happens to you, it's easier for you to deal with it.
Right.
Then a kid is easier to make changes on their own, but if a change happens, then it's harder.
Or happen to them, right?
Yeah,
it shakes
that's
them,
harder
and
to deal with.
it's very tricky. And I thought it was so beautiful how this brother came to me to talk to me about a sister, about how she's adjusting, and how that's a Baal Midos. That's somebody who's thinking about things. It's beautiful. No one said raising kids are easy, and definitely navigating with social media is not easy. And we all know all the founders of Facebook. The charata, the regret that they have, what menace they have done to society. It's not simple. There are many wonderful things. There's a campaign to help this girl in Chai Lifeline. Wonderful, right? A Tehillim group for someone who's sick. It's quicker to do through. Yeah, no one's saying not to use these things for wonderful purposes, but some of these social, you're posting about vacations, or you're chatting or fighting about something else. That's where people get into issues. It's like everything. We have to be balanced. We have to be thought out. We have to try to subscribe to the best of our abilities to what Torah, what the Rabbanim, what people tell us, is the right thing to do. I made sure to finish. I feel it's covered. St. Anton is here in the back. No. See, I'll just end with one point. Myself, my wife just had to leave, but when my family moved here to South Florida 5 years ago, so we're fortunate enough to become neighbors of the Antons. We didn't have to text them, we didn't have to WhatsApp them. We knocked on their door anytime we needed something, or even before that. She was coming by Friday night, check up on my wife. Just nice, good human interactions. That's what people crave. A picture, a message, it's nice sometimes, but it doesn't take the place of just checking up on a neighbor, befriending a neighbor, connecting with a person sitting next to you. It's nothing like it. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day.